Since Friday, 3 American service members have been killed in the widening fight with Iran, and a 4th is missing and believed dead. Overnight, American forces struck targets across Iran for the 10th night in a row. And this morning, the price of oil is the highest it has been in more than a month, with gasoline back to $4 a gallon. This is KnowFlo Daily. Good morning, and welcome in. It's Tuesday, July 21st. Before our top story, a quick look at the front page. If you couldn't get onto Facebook or Instagram early Sunday, you weren't imagining it. Both of Meta's platforms went down for a stretch that started around 3:25 in the morning, Eastern Time. Facebook even put up a message saying accounts were temporarily unavailable. The tracking site Down Detector logged thousands of complaints across the United States, and one count put it above 23,000 reports for Facebook alone inside a roughly 80-minute window. The monitoring group NetBlocks said the trouble wasn't tied to any single country's network, which points to a technical failure on Meta's own end. Access was spotty as far away as Singapore, and some users found the apps worked on their phones even while the desktop site was down. It was patched up later that morning, and Meta didn't comment. The online influencers Andrew and Tristan Tate were arrested by U.S. Marshals in Miami on Saturday on a sealed warrant, just as Andrew was set to appear at a bare-knuckle boxing event. The arrests came after British prosecutors authorized 38 new charges tied to 4 new alleged victims and formally requested that the brothers be extradited. The counts range from rape and sexual assault to trafficking for sexual exploitation. That brings the total against the 2 to 59 charges, involving 7 alleged victims, over offenses prosecutors say took place between 2010 and 2017. The brothers, who hold both American and British citizenship, also face separate criminal proceedings in Romania, where they have been under investigation since 2022. They have repeatedly denied all of the allegations, and their attorney called the new British charges filth and slander. And Canada is closing its border to travelers coming from the Democratic Republic of Congo, where an Ebola outbreak has now become the 3rd largest on record. As of Saturday, Congo's health ministry counted at least 930 deaths among more than 2,300 confirmed cases. Foreign nationals who have been in Congo in the past 3 weeks will be turned away starting Monday night. It's the same step the United States took last week, and it goes against the advice of the World Health Organization, which warns that travel bans tend to create stigma and make an outbreak harder to track. This is the fastest growing Ebola outbreak on record. There is still no approved vaccine or treatment for this strain, and at least 36 infected health workers have already died. But we begin this morning back in the Persian Gulf, because the confrontation with Iran has taken its most serious turn yet for the United States. Overnight, American forces carried out their 10th straight night of strikes inside Iran, hitting military command centers, air defenses, missile and drone launch sites, and communications networks. And the targets have grown well beyond the coast near the Strait of Hormuz. They now stretch across the country, including the city of Bushehr, home to Iran's only working civilian nuclear power plant. Iranian authorities say at least 50 people have been killed inside Iran since a ceasefire collapsed last month. But what has changed most sharply is the cost to the United States. Since Friday, 3 American service members have been killed, and a 4th is missing and presumed dead. 2 soldiers died in Jordan on Friday, and another was killed in Iraq on Saturday during the controlled detonation of a downed Iranian drone. Since this war began at the end of February, 17 American service members have now lost their lives. President Trump said on social media that, quote, "Every time Iran kills an American soldier, they will pay for that killing many times over," end quote. He is expected today at a ceremony at Dover Air Force Base. Iran, for its part, has widened the fight to the countries that host American bases, firing on Kuwait and Bahrain overnight, and also striking at Jordan and Syria. Iran's president called it a full-scale war with the United States, and yet, quietly, the diplomacy has not stopped. Iran's foreign ministry says exchanges with Washington, through mediators, are still going on. And Iran's interior minister flew to Pakistan, a key go-between, for talks. So both sides are trading fire and trading messages at the same time. For everyone outside the region, the sharpest edge of all this is the price of energy. Brent crude pushed above $91 a barrel, its highest since the middle of June, after climbing more than 4% just at the end of last week. And the reason is geography. The Strait of Hormuz carries about a fifth of the world's seaborne oil, and traders are afraid it could be choked off. American gasoline, meanwhile, is back to an average of $4 a gallon. That has revived worries about inflation, just as it finally looked to be cooling. One analyst put it this way, saying markets are being forced to trade 2 contradictory stories at once, a softening job market on the one hand and an energy shock on the other. The real danger, he said, is if high oil prices stick around long enough to eat into what households can actually spend. And underneath the market talk sits the harder truth, that this is now a shooting war on several fronts, with American families about to receive the bodies of their sons and daughters at Dover. Now to our main stories, where the shockwaves from that conflict are already reshaping decisions far from any battlefield. Start in Brussels, where Europe just blinked on one of its signature climate rules. The European Commission recommended on Monday that member states hold off, for 3 years, on penalizing oil and gas companies that break new methane reporting rules. Those penalties could have reached 20% of a company's annual revenue, and they were supposed to begin in 2027. The Commission was unusually blunt about why. It pointed to pressure from the Trump administration, along with Qatar, industry groups, and most of Europe's own member states. In fact, 17 of the 27 member countries, including Germany, had asked for the delay, and it cited the tight global energy market caused by the trouble at the Strait of Hormuz. Methane is the second biggest driver of climate change after carbon dioxide, so easing the world's first rule of its kind is a real climb down. The recommendation isn't binding, but national courts are obliged to take it into account. It's a clear case of a war on one continent quietly bending policy on another. Now, if you are eyeing a new phone this year, brace yourself. Google will unveil its Pixel 11 line at an event in New York on August 12th, and leaked European pricing suggests the base model is getting pricier, starting around €1,000, up about 100 from last year. There is a catch that softens the blow. Google is dropping its smallest storage option and making 256 gigabytes the new starting point, so on a like-for-like basis, the price is roughly flat. Still, the trend is real, and the reason behind it is striking. There is a global shortage of memory chips right now, driven by all the demand from artificial intelligence companies, and it is starting to show up in the price of ordinary gadgets. Samsung made the very same move earlier this year with its flagship, and it isn't just phones. The new Pixel Watch is rumored to cost more too, and Google will show off a foldable and new earbuds at the same August event. So the AI boom you keep hearing about is now quietly reaching into your pocket. Staying with artificial intelligence, there is more turnover at the top of Washington's oversight of it. Chris Fall, who ran the Commerce Department's Center for AI Standards and Innovation, has re-signed after just 3 months on the job. The department confirmed he is leaving, but wouldn't say why. And it adds to a real sense of drift over who exactly is steering federal AI policy. The White House AI and crypto czar stepped down back in March and still hasn't been replaced. And Fall himself was only brought in after the administration pushed out another researcher, one who had previously worked at the AI company Anthropic, just 4 days into the role. The head of the National Standards Institute will run the agency for now, while the search for a permanent director goes on. Commerce says it wants someone with deep expertise, and that matters, because this is the office meant to test how safe the most powerful AI models really are, at a moment when Chinese firms are gaining fast. And finally, in this stretch, the World Cup is over, and Spain are champions of the world. In the final at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, the substitute Ferran Torres scored the only goal deep into extra time, and Spain beat Argentina, 1-0. It is their second title, and it was dominant. Spain gave up just 1 goal in the entire tournament, and in the final they outshot Argentina, 20-2. And there is history stitched through it. Spain's women are already ranked number 1 in the world and reigning champions, so Spain becomes the first country ever to hold both the men's and women's World Cup titles at the same time. This was also almost certainly the last World Cup for Lionel Messi, who at 39 played in a record 6th tournament, a feat only Cristiano Ronaldo has matched, and scored 8 goals along the way, but could not break through Spain's defense on the biggest night of all. Oh, and there was a first ever World Cup halftime show, curated by Coldplay's Chris Martin, with Madonna, Justin Bieber, and BTS, a cast of more than 350 performers, expected to raise over $100 million for children's access to education and soccer. It stretched the break past 20 minutes, and the reviews were, let's say, mixed. One former England star simply called it, quote, crap, on the BBC. Before we let you go, a few quick ones to send you into your Tuesday. Women's professional tennis is bringing in mandatory genetic testing. Starting today, every player on the WTA Tour has to take a one-time cheek swab or saliva test, screening for a gene tied to male sex development in order to be eligible for the women's category. The Tour says it is about protecting fair competition, and it joins World Athletics, World Boxing, and the Olympics, which plans the same for Los Angeles in 2028. It replaces an older policy that let transgender women compete if they kept testosterone below a set level. There are no known transgender women on the tour right now, and tennis great Martina Navratilova called the change a step in the right direction. If you are house hunting, don't hold your breath for cheaper loans. Mortgage rates have hovered around 6.5% for months now, and Fannie Mae expects them to finish the year right about there. At that rate, a typical home runs close to $2,600 a month on a 30-year loan. The one piece of advice experts keep repeating is to shop around, because getting 4 quotes instead of just 1 can save the typical buyer more than $1,200 a year in interest. For the movie fans, Marvel has dropped the first full trailer for Avengers Doomsday, with Robert Downey Jr. back on screen. this time as the villain, Dr. Doom, reportedly for a paycheck of around $100 million. It arrives in theaters December 18th, the very same day as the next Dune film. So mark your calendars, and may the best blockbuster win. And finally, look up, because something rare is on the way. Spain is about to get 3 big solar eclipses in roughly a year and a half, starting with a total eclipse on August 12th, the first to touch mainland Europe since 1999. The northern city of Burgos will go dark for exactly 1 minute and 48 seconds. Here at home, a partial eclipse will be visible across a stretch of the country, from Alaska down to the Carolinas, including New York and Washington. And just hours later, the Perseid meteor shower hits its peak under a new moon and dark skies, one of the best displays in years. And that is the news for Tuesday, July 21st. This morning belongs to the Persian Gulf, where a 10th night of American strikes, the deaths of American troops, and oil at a 1-month high have put the world's most important shipping lane and your gas tank on edge. Beyond that, Europe softened its signature climate rule under American pressure. The Tate brothers were arrested in Miami, and Spain lifted the World Cup to become the first nation ever to hold both the men's and women's crowns at once. Thanks, as always, for spending part of your morning with us. Take care of yourselves out there. That was KnowFlo Daily. Sign up for your personalized newsletter at knowflo.io. News picked for you, your local news included, free.